Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous 3D crochet flower. This is the Zinnia single, or the single Zinnia. This easy crochet flower is perfect for beginners. You do not need to do anything fancy like front loops or back loops. And it is an actual granny square. It is not an applique that we stick onto a granny square or we sew on. This is a real granny square with a gorgeous flower center. It is also part of the BloomScape Cal. The BloomScape Cal is a series of different flower granny squares, one every month, that we are joining to make this gorgeous blanket at the end of the year. Also just a great resource for amazing crochet flower granny squares. So if you are looking for more flowers to turn into a granny square, check out that playlist as well. And yes, if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, they're available over on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. To make this single Zinnia granny square, you will need 4 different colors of yarn, one for your center, one for your flower, one for your leaves, and one for your granny square. I'm just using a regular 4-weight worsted acrylic, and you can even just be using scraps. You don't need that much to make this project. I'm also using a 5mm crochet hook. You'll need a pair of scissors and a needle for sewing in your ends. So let's get started. We are going to start by making a magic ring. If you would rather do a chain 3 ring, go ahead. Just leave a long enough tail at the end where you can sew your center closed with your tail. To start your magic ring, just lay your tail over your non-dominant hand and hold it down on your ring finger. Wrap it around your 2 fingers, making an X, and bring it around that 3rd finger, just holding it underneath your thumb. Turn your hand over, you'll have a short strand and a long strand. Take your crochet hook, hook side facing down, and just slide it down underneath that short strand. Grabbing the long strand, bringing it under, pointing the hook towards yourself, releasing your thumb a little bit so this long loop can slide. Grabbing the long loop, pinching right underneath your hook, just pinch that, and bring that yarn through the loop on your hook, and there is your magic ring. Now to start, we are going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So this counts as our first double crochet, and we want to work into the center of our ring and over our tail. So wrap your yarn and into the center of your ring, 7 double crochets. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, if I'm going too fast or too slow, you can adjust me by hitting that little gear on the video. You can also just pause the video and get caught up. So there is our chain 3 and our 7 double crochets. This counts as 8 double crochets. And now just close your ring. We don't have to make it super tight right now. We can leave it a little bit open. And now we're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 to join. Right over there, we're going to slip stitch. So pop your hook in, 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook, and slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. And that finishes the center of our flower. To start round 2, insert your hook into any space. We're going to be working in between these stitches. So not into the stitch, but just in between those posts. So just slide your hook in, loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, just holding it along the side of your work, and chain 2. 1 and 2. So this counts as our first double crochet, and into that very same space, we're going to do 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if I'm going too fast, just click that gear on the video and slow me down or speed me up, whatever suits you. You can also pause the video and get caught up. So pull your hook up just to give yourself a bigger loop, and we're going to insert our hook into the top of that chain to join. Just the top of that chain, and we want 2 strands on the top of our hook, just like that. So pop your hook in. Put that loop back on your hook and just hold the top of your hook with your finger so that loop doesn't slide off. Shrink it down and bring it through. And chain 2. 1 and 2. Now into the next space, after that next stitch, just right there, we are going to do 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull your hook up and take your hook out. Now we want to look for our very first double crochet of that set right here. So if you just slide your hook along, it is that stitch right there. You can also count your V's going back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to go right into that first double crochet we made. Put your loop back on your hook, just holding it onto your hook. Shrink it down and bring it through and chain 2. 1 and 2. So we're going to do that into each space all the way around. So into the next space, 5 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hook up and out and into that very first stitch. Just slide your hook in, loop back on your hook, shrink it down, turn your hook so your hook matches the size of your stitch or the shape, bring it through and chain 2. 1 and 2. So you can pause the video and keep working around doing a 5 double crochet popcorn into each of these spaces all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. More left-handed crochet tutorials. There are more than 160 of my easy left-handed tutorials in this playlist right here. When you get back to your last space, I have my tail there, so I'm just going to work over my tail as well. You can just start your double crochet into that spot. But what you might want to do is just flip that first popcorn down just to get it out of the way. We don't want to be snagging it when we're doing our double crochets. So just pinch that first popcorn down and finish your last popcorn into that last space. So there is my last popcorn and my chain 2. We're just going to slip stitch right over into that first space. Just right over into that space is where we want to be. So 1 little slip stitch to join. And that finishes round 2, or the first round of our petals. And now we are ready to start round 3. To start round 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into that same space right there, we're going to do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and slip stitch into that same space to finish off that petal. 1 slip stitch. Now jump over to the next space and slip stitch again. Just like that. Chain 2, 1 and 2, 3 double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and slip stitch into that same space. Slip stitch. Slip stitch into the next space to start our next petal, and chain 2, 1 and 2. So each petal starts with a slip stitch, a chain 2, then 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and a chain 2, and a slip stitch. So you can pause the video and keep working along. Each space gets a slip stitch, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and slip stitch. So we're going to do that into each space all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you reach back to where we began, I've done my slip stitch to finish off that petal. And we're just going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and turn your work. So we're going to be working into the back of our flower. And now look for this single crochet, or that stitch right there. We're going to be doing a front post slip stitch around that stitch. So go down before the stitch and come out right after it, and slip stitch, and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to look for the next one. So we're going to go down kind of underneath this petal and up underneath the center of the next petal. That's going to get us around that stitch. So down under the petal and up under the next petal. Tighten your yarn a little bit, give it a pull, and slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to find the next one. So we're going to go in under the petal and out under the next petal. Just like that. And slip stitch. So front post slip stitch. And chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. In under the next petal and out under the petal after that. I'm going to do our front post slip stitch just there. Slip stitch and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I can pause the video and keep working around doing a front post slip stitch around each post of the row down under, and a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the way around your flower, and I'll meet you when you get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, we are just going to slip stitch to join. So we're going to go right into that little stitch right there. That is where we're going to slip stitch. So just slide your hook in, just into that little stitch, and slip stitch to join. And chain 2. 1 and 2. Now turn your work, and we're going to go and slip stitch right into this first space. 1 slip stitch. We want to be right in the middle of that space. And chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Into the same space, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and into the next space, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into that same space just to finish off our petal. 1 slip stitch. Chain 3 to start your next petal, and 2 double crochets into that same space. There is 1 and 2. Into the next space, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch. So our petals are being spread out over 2 of these spaces down below. So into that same space, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. So into the space, this is what we're going to do into each space all the way along. Just fold those petals forward so we can see those spaces along the back of our flower. So into each space, we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 2 double crochets. So there is 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You can slide those stitches back if you need some more room, and 2 double crochets. So that's what we're putting into each space all the way around. It's kind of like a little heart shape. So into the next space, 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 2 double crochets. So there's my first 2 double crochets, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. So you can pause the video and keep working along. 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch, chain 3, 2 double crochets into each of these spaces all the way along, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When we finish our last set of stitches into that last space, we are right back where we started. So into that space where we started, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 2, 1 and 2. Now we're going to slip stitch into that space to join or to pin down that last petal. 1 slip stitch. To start round 6, chain 2, 1 and 2, and turn your work over. We were going to be doing our front post slip stitches again. So put your hook down into this first space and out the second space, just so we're around that post. Shrink up your yarn a little bit and make 1 slip stitch, just like that, and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're going to go into this first space and come out the second space. So into that first space and out the second space, just where around that post, or that post is on our hook, slip stitch, and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So put your hook into the first space and out the second space. Shrink up your yarn and slip stitch. And chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to be doing this all the way around our flower. Hook into the first space and out the second space, just so we get that post on our hook. Bring it through and slip stitch to join, and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can pause the video and just keep working along all the way around your flower, and I will meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, here's our little chain 2 we made in the beginning. This is our first post right over there, our first slip stitch. So we want to go in to that slip stitch. We're going to slip stitch into our slip stitch. So just right in there, if you look from the side, you can see where that stitch is. I'm going to just go underneath that stitch. That's where we're going to join. So just you can give your chain a little pull if you want to see where that stitch is. And then just get your hook in there. We are going to slip stitch to join. Chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. To start our leaves, we want to be working into the front of our flower, but only into those loops. So grab those petals and just kind of pinch them forward. Just so that loop at the back, we can see it. Pop your hook in. Loop of your leaf color on your hook. Bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join. And chain 1. This counts as our first single crochet. We can work over our tail a little bit and do 3 single crochets into that same space. So 1, 2, and 3. So that counts as 4 single crochets. Now flip the next set of petals down so we can see that back ring or that back loop. And into that back loop, 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And into the next loop, 4 single crochets. So we're going to do 4 single crochets into each loop all the way around for this round. Just like that. So you can pause the video and keep working ahead. 4 single crochets into each of these loops all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get all the way around back to where we started, just make sure you have 8 of these loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 4 single crochets into each space, 32 stitches. So now we are ready to slip stitch to join. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that chain 1, our little fake single crochet in the beginning. So just pop your hook in. We want 2 strands of part of that stitch on our hook. So just pop your hook in and slip stitch to join. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and make 1 double crochet into that very same spot, that very same stitch. 1 double crochet. Just like that. Chain 2, 1, and 2, and skip 2 stitches. So we're skipping these 2 stitches right there. We're going to work into the 3rd. That's the 3rd. And make 1 single crochet. Chain 2, 1, and 2. Skip 1 stitch. So we're skipping that stitch. We're going to work into the 2nd right there. 1 single crochet. Chain 2, 1, and 2, skip 2 stitches, and working into the 3rd, right there, wrap your yarn, and we're going to do a corner. Corners, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. So there's my first 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into that same stitch. 1 and 2. Chain 2, 1 and 2, skip 2 stitches and into the third stitch, 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skipping 1, so we're skipping this one and we're working into the second right there, 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skipping 2 and into the third right there, our corner. So corners, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets all into the same space. So there's our 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets into the same space. 1 and 2. Chain 2, 1 and 2, skip 2, and into the third, 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skip 1, and into the second, 1 single crochet. Chain 2, skip 2, and into the third, a corner. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets all into the same stitch. So there's our 2, chain 2, wrap your yarn and 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 2, skip 2, and into the third, 1 single crochet, chain 2, skip 1, and into the second, 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2, and now we are back to our very first corner. So we're going to go into that same stitch where we began, just the bottom of that chain. We're going to go right here to finish off our corner with 2 double crochets. So 2 double crochets into that very same stitch. 1 and 2. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to go right into the top of that chain to join. Right there, we want 2 strands on the top of our hook. So just pop your hook in and slip stitch and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. Just pop your hook in to a corner space. I usually always start in the corner before my previous join, but it doesn't matter. Any corner space where you have not joined is fine. Just pop your hook in, just into that space. Loop of your granny square color on your hook or the color you're using for your block. Bring it through and slip stitch with both strands to join. Drop your tail, just holding it along the side of your work, and chain 2. 1 and 2. So this counts as your first double crochet. Wrap your yarn and into that same space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now we're going to drop our tail. We're going to sew that in with a needle later. Into this next space right over there, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into this next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And into this space right here, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. When you get to the corner where your tail is, bring that tail forward so we can work over it a little bit. We still have to sew it in with a needle, but it gives us a little bit of extra security. So into that space, working over our tail, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, and 2. You can slide those stitches back if you need some more room. And 3 more double crochets into that same space, or that same corner spot. There's 2, and here is 3. So there is our corner. Now you can pause the video and keep working along. We're going to do 3 double crochets into each of these side spaces. So 3 double crochets into each of these spaces, and I will meet you at the corner. When you get to your corner space, we're going to do a corner. Corners are 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all into the same space. So wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, and 2. Slide your stitches back if you need some more room, and 3 more double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Now you can pause the video and keep working along. Sides are 3 double crochets into each space, and corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all the way along, and I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started into our first corner space, we're going to do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now there are 2 different ways to join. To join and continue, we are going to join with a chain 1, and we are going to do a single crochet to join into the top of that chain. So a single crochet to join. And that leaves us in the center of our corner. And chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. If you're doing the BloomScape cowl, you will turn and do your single crochet into this first space. If you're going to continue with a granny square, you'll do your 2 double crochets into the same space. Just like that. Pop a stitch marker into this spot so you know where you are finishing. You don't just keep zooming along and lose this corner. And then just keep going with your 3 double crochets into each space. You do want to turn your work because it keeps your granny square from twisting, but of course it's up to you. If you don't want to turn your work, it's the same, just don't turn your work. To join and end, so you're finished with this yarn color. You're either going to switch colors or the granny square is the size you want it to be. You're going to join with a chain 2, 1, and 2, and we are going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 to join. So just slip stitch to the top of the chain 3. You want 2 strands of that stitch on the top of your hook. So slip stitch to join, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through, and snug that down to secure. Now we can go ahead and do our tail. So remember to shrink down that tail in the beginning. That is a magic ring, so we really have to be careful with that one. So thread your needle. I like these sharp tip ones. They are linked in the description box below. And I'm just going to go forward with my needle, just the same way the yarn was traveling before. And I'm going to almost go the whole way around. Just to make sure that's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to loosen, and I'm going to go the other directions, and I'm going to do opposite. So all the way around going forward, and all the way around going backwards, and then that won't be able to wiggle out, and these sharp tip needles really, really help. Sew in your tails, and you're finished. So I hope you enjoyed making this gorgeous 3D crochet flower as much as I did. I am waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.